It's our pleasure to welcome now Natasha Srdoc. She is the co-host of America's Roundtable radio program, co-founder, International Leaders Summit. Natasha, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Gerard. Good afternoon to you and your listeners.
Yeah, so what do you think about this rather chaotic altercation that occurred with Ukraine President Zelensky and United States President Donald Trump in the Oval Office this past Friday? I'm not sure I've ever seen anything quite like that in that room.
Right, exactly. It was bad to watch it. I think for all of us, we felt really bad the way Zelensky treated American taxpayers and President Trump. And so my take on this is that it was negotiating that went bad. It was the last question that was asked in the Oval Office. And since President Zelensky came to America to sign the agreement, the rules of negotiations are there's a gambit. You do not ask anything once you agree to sign. Whenever you do that, it's in bad faith, actually. So you don't be surprised if negotiations fall through. But this was done while the entire world was watching. And the problem with that is also that these negotiations are done in such a way between two countries where a mediator has to be perceived as being neutral. So meaning you can't take sides, you have to be trusted and to be able to have successful completion of negotiations that both sides are, to a certain point happy. No one's going to be totally satisfied with the outcome. But to get to that point, you have to be really, and basically perceived as being neutral. And President Trump did a wonderful, masterful, negotiating tactics and, bringing Zelensky first to the Oval Office and postponing his talk with President Putin. So he did a lot, actually, for Zelensky, for Ukraine. And it was just unfortunate that Zelensky reacted the way he did, which now it's coming out. He's saying that he's regretting. He says it was regrettable, and now he's saying he would like to come back.
Yeah, and offered, I would call it, Natasha, a tacit apology. I think he'd do himself a big old favor if he'd just come out and say, I'm sorry. I behaved inappropriately in front of the American people on live television. In the Oval Office, I was disrespectful to Americans and to the American president. If he would just say that, and honestly, to the dignity of the United States White House, if he would just come out and say that, I think it would help him out a lot.
Right, correct. I also think the same. However, I think that because of having a strong support by European leaders, he doesn't seem to be looking that this is something, a requirement that he needs to do. I mean, this is the right thing to do, to apologize to American people, because when you look at the donations and how much American taxpayers, the bill that was paid by American taxpayers is tremendous. And although Europe will say they gave more money in military and humanitarian assistance, all that was actually paid by American taxpayers as well. The fact is that some of that went via loans, so it's going to be paid back to European countries. On the other side, I did a little analysis looking per capita. When you compare European Union, Norway, Iceland, Switzerland that are not part of it, and all of them, how much they contributed to Ukraine, and compared to per capita in America, actually Americans contributed much more. I think 30% more in military and humanitarian aid in dollar value when you compare these continents.
Yeah, I mean the reports that I've read peg the U.S. at about $180 billion, including in-kind donations and aid, if you will, without any strings attached. Whereas, as you point out, Europe's most of their, at least the cash that they've provided, cash aid, is in the form of a loan. I'd also point this out, Natasha, that they continue to procure oil and gas from Russia. They're actually helping Russia fund their war-fighting effort by importing oil and gas from Russia. And to a great extent, that's a result of Joe Biden's policies where he wouldn't let us ship LNG out of Pennsylvania to Europe.
Yeah, correct. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. How could that all happen? And that everybody's watching the same story going on, and nobody's doing anything against it. And actually, another thing is that there are Russian assets that were frozen in certain countries in Europe, and I think that those frozen assets are also going to be used to
Yeah,
pay back some of the
that's
some
right.
of the loans and some of the aid given. On another note, as you mentioned earlier, basically, taking this deal, mineral rights deal, that allows America and Ukraine to develop actually new areas. It's not for current ones where Ukraine government is already making money on, but it's actually developing new areas of mineral rights and rare earth minerals would be a perfect way to get the peace in Ukraine. And I was thinking about the same thing in the Balkans. If there is American presence on the ground through property rights, through American businesses really being present, there's no higher guarantee for peace, because no one is going to dare to attack Americans at that point, because they're going to get it. There will be repercussions, and
I
I
hope you're
think that
right.
he.
I hope you're right. I will admit I see Putin as a bit of a wild card. Would he in fact be respectful of that? I mean, it would mean his death likely, and really bad stuff would happen to his country and his countrymen if he dared to continue to attack in Ukraine when America has a significant economic presence there.
Yeah, I think he's aware of it, because he doesn't have a chance against the full
Yeah,
might of American military. No
yeah,
chance. So he
right.
would have to think twice. As long as Ukraine is not part of NATO, he
Yeah,
can play with it, because not everyone is going to come to defend Ukraine, because there's no
right.
the fifth the Article 5 on NATO. But with American presence in the country, he wouldn't dare do that. And that's the also issue of these negotiations, that they are going in front of the entire world, and not
Yeah.
everything is said, and we can't see what was written. So basically, they have to hide and show, and it's a game, because they shouldn't tell too much, because it's still negotiating going on. But the way they say it, people need to understand what's behind it. So I believe this economic deal will be the best thing for ending war in Ukraine.
I agree. It's absolutely the best shot. What about your takeaways from last night? Anything in particular impress you?
Yeah, it was wonderful to hear America is back. America is
Yeah.
back, and it's a golden age. And basically, there's such an optimism, and there's so much hope. Then you read reports about terrorists, which actually dampen it. But even in that area, Trump understands, I believe, that he should keep the threat going and reduce the real tariff rates, because it's going to, get prices up one way or the other. I mean, either it's going to be to absorb by consumers, or it's going to be absorbed by businesses. But in any case, it would reduce the potential of growth. So I believe and hope that the only thing is tariffs that bothers me, or actually I'm concerned about. Otherwise, everything is just perfect. I mean, the way he recognized individuals and also honored families that lost their loved ones, it was touching, it was emotional, and it was also very interesting to see that the Democrats did not applaud or agree with anything that President Trump said, and that's really, uh, it's really not fair. It's not right, because we all
Yeah.
Americans, and they also have constituents that believe in many things that President Trump said. So I think that's going to be going actually against them, because constituents are not going to take it, I hope.
Yeah, I hope that's the case as well, because all the polls show that not only was the speech overwhelmingly popular with Americans and resonated with them, but they opposed these crazy policies that the Democrats have latched themselves onto.
Right, right. I mean, yeah, I mean, they are against illegal immigration, obviously. Much of Americans are, especially criminals coming to a country, I mean, hurting Americans. Fentanyl is a problem. I mean, more and more people understand, even businesses that are hit by tariffs understand we have to deal with fentanyl. And if this is the only way, let's do it. I mean, just even for a period of time until we get to some kind of a norm of getting less fentanyl coming into our country.
Yeah, I agree. Natasha, always good talking to you. Thanks for coming on today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Gerard. Appreciate it.
You bet. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth